First of all, I am Christine Genovese. If you don't know who I am, I'm the Chief Growth Officer for Nutritional Frontiers. Jamie and I do our best to meet everybody's needs, and we have an incredible team behind us to do that. Tonight we have Philly Phil, who is manning our technology needs. I will be manning the chat room tonight. And we are really lucky to have such an incredible brand ambassador, fan who loves Nutritional Frontiers, is a great representation of how you can really use our formulations to have an impact. She's just a dynamic lady inside and out, and she's been someone that I've really grown to get to know and love and adore as a friend as much as a respected colleague. So Dr. Tracey Stroup is going to give us a taste of Beyond the Blood Work. We will let you know, because you're only going to be able to get just like, a modicum of the knowledge that she has to impart on you tonight. We will make sure that we provide you with links in the chat room, because I know you're all going to want to take her Beyond the Blood Work course, which is available live now anytime you want it, on demand through NFU EDU, which is our online education course portal. And we're actually working with a number of our incredible brand ambassadors and VIP clients who have programs that they want to share and courses that they would like to put up online. And so if that's a passion of yours or something you've thought about, please feel free to reach out to myself or Jamie. And we'd love to talk to you about how we might be able to add you into the NFU EDU education portal. All right, without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to my friend and colleague, Dr. Tracey Stroup, because I know you guys want every possible minute that she can share with you about Beyond the Blood Work. So, Tracey.
Well, thank you. That was such a beautiful introduction, and I really appreciate just everything that you guys provide at Nutritional Frontiers, from amazing formulas to just having an open family type of atmosphere where practitioners can really feel at home. So I also really appreciate the opportunity to share this course here. When I built it a few years back, I didn't expect it to be as successful as it was. I thought everybody kind of knew how to look at blood work, but I guess I was wrong. And tonight, I'm going to go over the course and what it all entails. And I'm going to cover the entire CBC with Differential. So walking out of here, you will have a tool. You'll have a whole new set of eyes on a piece of blood work that maybe you looked at 2 weeks ago, a week ago, and you're going to go back and look at it again and just be amazed at what you learn. And I had some great mentors in this course as well. So I'll give you resources if you need it of how to find out more. But honestly, we're just going to do a little bit of a slide deck here, just so we all stay on the same page. I only have 13 slides, but I'm going to share the full PDF document of the CBC with Differential with everybody. So I'm just going to collapse the view just to remind everybody, if you could mute yourselves, please, and we will answer questions. Hit the chat box. That would be great. And I'll make sure that I get to your questions. So basically, just a little bit about me. I've been in the industry about 25 years. I worked at Nutritional Frontiers as their VP of Marketing and Education. Currently, I work at a online telehealth / e-com platform called gethealthy.store. I'm their Chief Health and Growth Officer, a lot more difficult title to pronounce than my old one. I'm a naturopathic doctor. I started out in personal training, so I do have a bachelor's of science in exercise science and owned my own personal training studio for about 15 years. I'm a level 2 digestive specialist from the Food Enzyme Institute. I also do a lot of natural health business consulting for people getting ready or wanting to scale their business. And I'm also a wife, mom, and a lover of Jesus. So everything that kind of comes out of my courses comes from that background, that experience, and we all have our own stories. So many people don't realize that the history of blood work is vast. It comes from a compilation of about 1,000 people who were in the hospital, and they took a general consensus or analysis of the medium of all those people. So normally people aren't in the hospital when they're feeling great. So they were pulled from, the numbers were pulled from a bunch of sick people. And if you ever look at basic bloodline panels or any testing for blood at all, you will notice that, the ranges are so wide, they're so vast. So when I looked at blood work, I thought, these normal ranges are so wide. And what I was experiencing in my practice where people weren't feeling good at a certain level that was within normal, and other people would. So I thought, well, maybe if we narrow these a little bit, we scale them down, we pull them in, what would happen to the results if we could get people out of the mindset of normal and into looking at blood work and functional ranges. So that's what I did. So a normal range or result doesn't always promise health. And I don't know how many of you look at blood work and you see everything's in green according to the normal scale, but your patients and clients are still complaining, they're still symptomatic, they still don't feel well, and you're kind of just perplexed because, well, their numbers are in range. I think we now know that those numbers can be a little bit skewed, a little bit too wide. And so what we're going to look at tonight is functional ranges, and we're going to learn what those functional ranges mean. Now, what I'll preface this with is, and I tell my clients the same thing, it takes about 90 days for the body to actually turn over and regenerate itself. We know that, all the red blood cells turn over. It takes, so many months for the liver to regenerate fully, but the body does have the ability to heal. And so when I look at functional blood work, I remind my people that the first goal is just to get into the functional space. And then we have to stay there to give the body opportune time to heal. And so that's what I want you to take out of this tonight. It's not a race just to get the numbers where I say. It's more of a directive to get your clients into that functional range and allow the body to heal while it's in a range where the body can heal. So you can look at it this way. Normal is a 4-lane highway, okay? Functional is actually staying in your lane and not swerving into everybody else's lane. And that's what we see with normal ranges, is that the lanes can be all over the place. So just keep that in mind so that when you talk to your clients and patients about this, they have an understanding of what you're talking about. All right, so you're going to see measurements with blood work. And honestly, you'll see many different measurements. What I will say is most of the units that are in the United States will fall into the categories that are universal across the US. Now, if you start to look at people's blood work from other countries, they may have different metric system of measuring or different abbreviations. You might just want to keep this as a note so that if you do run into those blood work metrics that you're not familiar with, you can do apples to apples or apples to oranges. So the components of blood work that I draw, honestly, are the CBC with differential, and you won't find a differential on a lot of blood panels. It's really important if you're working with people to tell them that they need the differential with the CBC, which is the complete blood count. And I'm going to tell you why in a little bit, because that's what we're going to cover tonight. I also order a comprehensive metabolic panel, which is the CMP, a lipid panel, which is your cholesterol panel, and then a serum iron. And the reason that I do that is because it gives me a full look at every different system and function in the body. It also is an extremely inexpensive test to pay cash out of pocket. And so I don't know about you, but I think we have test exhaustion in our industry. I mean, there's a test for everything. Are they necessary? Well, that depends on the patient, and you're the doctor, and I would never tell you how to run your practice. But what I've realized is simply by giving people the opportunity to test for less, they get a lot of information from what I'm teaching them, and they can spend more on the foods, nutrition, and supplementation, also the revisits for you to keep their compliancy high. So the reason that I did this course was twofold. One, it was to help the practitioner offer a very simple and common solution that almost everybody has and almost gets every year, that's affordable to your patients and clients so they don't get test fatigue and they don't get financially burdened by it. So that was really the point to this class. So let's talk about the CBC, which is the complete blood count with differential. The complete blood count, obviously, this concentrates on 3 types of blood cells: white blood cells, red blood cells, and platelets. And by measuring the volume of different components of that, the CBC allows you, the practitioner, to evaluate the individual for overall health. Also, what you can see in the CBC with differential is if someone's a poor methylator. You can see if they have an MTHFR mutation, or at least you would suspect it. You can also see iron needs, viruses that are present, bacteria that is present. You also can see how well their gut is functioning and their blood viscosity. So just from the CBC with differential, you've learned more about somebody's potential to heal than any other test that you've probably run. The comprehensive metabolic panel This is also known as the chemistry panel, and it measures the body's glucose, fluid, electrolyte balance, as well as liver and kidney function. It also will show me gut integrity, adrenal health, and amino acid need. And amino acids, which I'll teach you, are communicators. They also are constructors of peptides. They're extremely important in health. And if people are too low or too high, they're going to have issues of chronic disease and or neurodegenerative disease. And so I'm not going to cover that tonight, but that's all in the course that I teach. The lipid panel, oh, poor little cholesterol. I mean, he gets such a bad rap. He's been beat up on for so long, and only to increase the statin sales. Listen, I love cholesterol. There's nothing in your body that's not supposed to be there that was created by God. God doesn't make junk. So when we look at cholesterol, we look at total cholesterol, VLDL, LDL, HDL, and triglycerides. They all have a point and a purpose. And I do a huge teaching on the lipid panel alone. I teach you exactly what cholesterol does. What is VLDL? What's LDL? What's HDL? What does that all mean in pertaining to hormone balances, brain health, and also vascular integrity? We have to remove the fact that cholesterol is only for cardiovascular health. Cholesterol is metabolic health, period. And all dis-ease starts with metabolic dysfunction. So if you look at cancer, metabolic disease, cardiovascular, metabolic disease, insulin resistance or diabetes, metabolic disease. We can go on and on and on, but I'll sit here and argue with anybody that cholesterol is good. It has a purpose. We have to stop demonizing it. And for the love, we have to stop killing everybody's levels because it is absolutely needed in the regeneration of the brain, the vascular system, including the kidneys, gut integrity, because any place that there's endothelial tissue, and that's your blood-brain barrier, your digestive system, your vascular system, including the renal system, your body needs cholesterol to repair it, along with nitric oxide, along with L-arginine. So that's CircuCore. Again, I teach you all that in the course. So serum iron panel, a lot of people don't run this, and they especially don't run it on men, but there's so many things you can learn from a total serum iron. This is going to give you how much iron is being utilized, how much of it is available. And then ferritin is a key indicator for you to know that there's inflammation in the body. So if you have a high ferritin, but all your other numbers with iron are normal, that just means that available iron in the blood is not getting driven into the cells, and that's usually an inflammatory issue or something else is on the receptor site. So again, I teach this in the course, but I want you to understand that you have to have iron. You know, we have scared women after menopause. We tell them not to take in any iron, like they're going to become mass storage units of it. We all need iron. It's the main conductor in every cell. It's part of every system and function in your body. It's extremely valuable. And if you have enough iron, but then you see in the CBC, which I'll teach you in a minute, that the iron's not being available or utilized well, then we know that we have something stealing it. And the two main things that steal iron are Epstein-Barr virus and H. pylori. And I'm going to show you how to see those. Okay, so there's many different ways. Maybe you're sitting here thinking, I don't have any direct lab connection. My clients won't pay for testing. Here's what I tell my clients. I work with Avexia Diagnostics, and they are a great platform. That's a marketplace that has many different tests. A blood serum, they use LabCorp as their blood draw centers. So when you write a requisition, you will actually send that script to the patient or client, and then you will actually have them pay for it and they receive the requisition. And I know that Nutritional Frontiers and Avexia are coming hand in hand. So I'm sure Christine has a link for you, because I would recommend you go in with NF, because they're going to have incredible panels and all kinds of things ready for you. So I know she's going to be talking about that. Did you want to speak on that, Christine, at all?
Yeah, I just wanted to let people know that there's an Avexia discount code, and it's pretty easy to remember. NF. Okay, that's our discount code with Avexia Diagnostics. So you can use that, and you'll be able to get a discount on the pricing for the standard panels at present. And what Dr. Tracey's alluding to is that we're getting together with some of our brand ambassadors and VIPs and asking them for their recommendations on some custom panels. So we'll actually have some NF endorsed custom panels that'll be available with Evexia soon, and will be on our list for you. Dr. Tracey, while I have you pause for just a quick second, there were a couple questions in the chat. The first one is, does the course go over functional hormone levels?
I don't get into functional hormone levels because these are not the tests for it, but I do have a second class called the Metabolic Mastery where I teach all of that, the Dutch test and neurotransmitter test, but that's not this course.
Great.
But this course, I promise you, Jenna, will be great.
Awesome. Okay. Well, back to you.
Okay, so just to point out that NF code, if you're going to go order blood work and you use it, that's great. But here's the other thing. You know, people are not hesitant. They want answers. They've gone to every practitioner. Sometimes you can use the blood work they already have. Go ahead. That's great. As long as it's within 6 months, I'm okay with using current blood work that someone might have. But most of the time, I'm going to be like, hey, let's get a fresh set. Literally, this test will cost about $75 out of pocket to get everything I showed you. It is not a huge expense for somebody. They'll pay that, you know, within 2 weeks for Starbucks. They'll pay that for a dinner out, probably just 2 people. If you can get a dinner for $75, that's a miracle. So just keep in mind, if we put it in perspective for them, they're a little bit less inclined to argue with you about the fact that you're making them pay for blood work. All right, so before we get into your assignment tonight, I am going to jump to a new document because I actually have the CBC with differential that I want to share and show you. And I'm going to move that out of the way, and then I'm going to put this over here. And I lost my Word doc. Okay.
Well, Dr. Tracey is finding what she wants to share with you. If you are interested in seeing Dr. Tracey speak live, we have her actually doing this course in Atlanta.
I'm doing the advanced course in Atlanta. Oh no, I'm doing this in Atlanta. You're right. I'm doing the advanced one at the PTE. Yeah.
And she will be doing the advanced course for us at the professional training event in Pittsburgh, which is October 18th to the 20th. And I will put that link also in the chat so that everybody has access to it. If you've not signed up for it, we want to make sure that everybody gets a chance to get there. Our rooms are going pretty quickly. As a matter of fact, our early bird discount is going to expire on the 15th. So if you want to take advantage of that, you've got another week or so to sneak in under the wire. So I have put that in there. Dr. Tracey's not only going to be doing the advanced level of Beyond the Blood Work at that event, but she's also going to be helping us with some other really cool diagnostic tools like fingers, nails, tongue, all kinds of crazy stuff that you can diagnose people.
Yeah.
Face, tongue, and nail. I'm like, hand. I think I already hit my wine.
Hand puppets, you know, or some hands. We're going to be playing mime games now. All right, well, let's get into this next document, which is actually the layout of the CBC with differential. And I just want to make sure, can everybody see that clearly? Is it big enough? We good? So what I want to share with you is when you take the course, all of these documents are downloadable and you'll get a copy of this. Now, I'm going to let you all know that I still love paper copies of everything. And I have this little white, really non-exciting binder that I use. I created all these, and then I printed all of them out. I laminated them and I put them inside my binder. And when somebody brings me blood work, I use a dry erase marker to write their numbers in here until you can learn them from the top of your head. And I still, honestly, guys, like I don't remember every number all the time. I know if something's in or out of alignment, but you can use them like that. And so you'll get these documents so that you have the opportunity to look at blood work. It makes it super simple. If you're a consumer, the same thing. You can look at blood work. This does not take, you know, a rocket science degree to do, but it is helpful to have somebody guide you on the protocol. So I would suggest connecting with a practitioner that's here or reaching out to Christine if you are a consumer and just asking if there's someone in your area. All right, so I'm going to come back to white blood cell count because that is going to tie into our differentials down here. And I'm just going to start with the red blood cell, hemoglobin, hematocrit. Now, as you can see, my functional ranges are a lot more narrow. I don't go with the 3 point whatever to 5 point whatever. I think outside of that box, you're getting into issues and the body is starting to stress. So I like to keep these a little bit more narrow. When I'm looking at red blood cell count, we need to know exactly what we're dealing with. What is red blood cell count? So as we talked earlier, the complete blood cell count is made up of white, red, and platelets. Well, red blood cells are really important because those are the things that carry oxygen. And so it's very important that we have enough iron in order to be the conductor and facilitator, and that we have enough potential to carry that oxygen where it needs to go. So all of the numbers mean a little bit different when we're looking at the CBC with differential. So red blood cells carry the oxygen to tissues through the body. That's their job. And that what makes them more important is that they have to be healthy and functioning. So red blood cells that are too small, that are dying, those are not beneficial to us. There's no such thing as a good sick cell. You either want a healthy cell or a dead cell. You don't want anything in the middle. That's the whole point to autophagy, the whole point to p53 transcription. That's why cancer is a bad thing, because that's a sick, mutated cell. So remember, cells are either healthy or dead, no in between. Let's talk about hematocrit, okay? Hematocrit, I'll come back to hemoglobin. This tests what proportion of the blood is made up of the red blood cells. So you have your blood that's plasma, water, and then you have the red blood cells in it. So your hematocrit is how much saturation you have. Then hemoglobin, the second one right here, that is the protein that's contained within the red blood cell. So you have the red blood cell, you have the protein that's contained within the red blood cell, and then you have how many red blood cells are actually in the total blood volume. Okay, so let's just start with that. Anything that is below the numbers that I have specified here in this column, when it's low, it's an iron need, regardless of what the total serum iron says. I don't care what the total serum iron says. What is happening is that you might have enough available iron, you might have enough total iron stores, but when that iron is trying to be transferred or utilized by your immune system, this is your immune system, by the red blood cells, it's not happening. It is either due to, if your ferritin's high inflammation, or it's because something is stealing it. And we're going to find out what those culprits can be, such as Epstein-Barr, which I'll show you how to see it, another virus, a chronic illness, some sort of liver dysfunction that you would see on the CMP, Comprehensive Metabolic Panel, or some sort of gut issue like H. pylori or other bacteria. Remember, iron supplies everything as a conductor. So bacteria will take it, viruses will take it, parasites, if you have those, will eat it up. So lots of things to consider when we're looking at that. If your red blood cell, hemoglobin, or hematocrit are above these numbers, above 55 here, above 15 here, above 4.9 here, then you have a methylation issue. It's a pretty solid assumption that if all three of these are high, then you probably have somebody that has an MTHFR mutation. Now, can I confirm that without a test? No, I can't. Do I need to? Absolutely not. I don't. I don't need to confirm.
Sorry.
I know
I
they're
did.
for methylator.
The F and the M, is the F for functional range or is the F for female and the M for male? Can you go over that? I am so
Yep.
sorry.
No, you're good, Sherry. Great question. I apologize. F is for female. M is for male. Good question. I didn't clarify that. So yes, female, male. And the reason that I do different ranges, and they're not massively different, but men tend to have higher testosterone levels. They tend to have more lung capacity. They tend to have more muscle mass. So they're better carriers of oxygen and red blood cells. They also have a higher need for them. So we want to raise these numbers a little bit so that we're not considering lower range as being iron potential. So I do have different levels for them. They also have a little bit higher criteria for saturation and enough red blood cells in their blood. So I raise these levels a little bit. So again, below, you're looking at iron. Above, you're looking at methylation need. So on the right, I have put in some support. This does not mean this is exactly what you have to use. But when we look at the NF brand and what they have to offer, there's something for everything. So I have put some of the solution sets here in the right side. I'm not going to go through all the hows and whys, But just to point out that Women's Complete or Frontier Men's Complete is a full spectrum multivitamin with minerals, along with, in the women's, an entire probiotic set for vaginal health, cervical health, and in the Men's Complete, it also has the prostate health makeup of different minerals and nutrients. Super powerful. If you're familiar with methylation and what it does, that's your body's ability to cellular repair or actually create enough glutathione to detoxify your body. That's a kind of very elementary description. Methylation is also responsible for silencing viruses and bacteria. The things that are going to rob oxygen from your body are bacteria, viruses, parasites, toxicity, heavy metals. Those are oxygen robbers because they interfere with the methylation process, which is a conduction process. It does require iron. We don't talk about that a lot, but it does. It does require B12 in the right forms, and depending on your MTHFR mutation, that can change. So there's a lot more to go into these panels, but just so you have eyes to see, when you see that these are low, we know that there's a need for iron. And I would suggest that you use something, either the Easy Iron, which is going to be a direct iron supplement, or in the Women's Complete will be the Ferroshell, which is a really highly bioavailable iron that you could utilize. For men, I don't really see it a lot unless it's prolonged sickness. I see poor methylation as that. So you could use the Frontier Men's Complete or Super B Complete. I also love DMG. So you could write that in here in the column, dimethylglycine. Right? We know it's the #1 oxygenator. We know there's tons of studies on it. It biohacks around the MTHFR gene, so you don't have to worry about it. I've come to the point where I think everybody has MTHFR mutation or poor methylation. If you live on this planet, you don't sleep well, you have any type of stress, married and kids, add those to the bucket, you probably are a poor methylator. And so dimethylglycine for me is an everyday supplement because you can't overdose it and it just helps in so many processes. Now, some people ask me, like, what if one's out of range? I wouldn't worry too much about that. I'm looking for not just numbers, but patterns. So if I do see like low, low, and then this number's out, now you have to remember, we're going to look at these for the same need, right? So you can see low iron need, high methylation. You might be saying, well, what's the difference? These are the size. I mean, for layman's terms, mean corpus value or MCH or MCHC, that's kind of the size of your red blood cells. So the mean platelet volume or the MCV or the MCH or the MCHC, when your body starts to get deficient, and you don't have enough oxygen carrying capacity, you're not delivering enough red blood cells where they need to go. So you can have two problems. You can have not enough red blood cells, or you can have not enough oxygenation or saturation of the red blood cells. So when I look at this protein that's inside the red blood cell, that is a protein. So he's going to need oxygen. He's going to need iron. So MCV, MCHC, you're going to follow the same patterns. If you're seeing low, 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 I'm going to put them on iron. If I'm seeing a multi-mix pattern where it's like low, high, I'm going to put them on a multivitamin, maybe with some iron if it's a woman. If it's a man, I'm going to put them on the Frontier Complete, and I'm going to put them on some DMG or some Super B Complete. Don't be afraid to enhance the function that they need, because their immune system cannot function without oxygen. We absolutely know that the #1 contributor to cancer is lack of oxygen. It's the #1 contributor to oxidative stress, cellular damage, all of that. So DMG all the way will fix a lot of problems. So that is kind of just an overview of immune function on the CBC with differential. So just to go back over some of these, MCV, this is the average volume of red blood cells, or the space that each red blood cell fills. The mean corpus hemoglobin, which is the MCH, that is the lab test. That's the average amount of hemoglobin present in each blood cell. So if you have low hemoglobin, that's the protein inside, and you have low MCH, which is going to be the amount of hemoglobin present, then you know this is a massive oxygenation problem and low iron. So a lot of people that you'll see that are on asthma inhalers, kids especially, watch their CBC with differential. Sometimes it's not asthma. Sometimes it's low iron, and they cannot saturate and oxygenate their red blood cells in order to carry oxygen to their lungs and to their blood. So very interesting to start looking at the numbers. Watch your asthma clients. I'll bet you that they're going to have some wonky, it's a technical term, wonky CBCs with differential. All right, let me just look at the chat real quick. I saw a question come in. Thank you for that. I didn't get the definition for methylation. All right, so methylation is just basically your body's ability to cellularly repair or detoxify. That's the general definition. It also is your body's ability to methylate or put a methyl group on bacteria and viruses. It's part of your immune system. We don't talk about it. It also can methylate mutated cells, cancer cells. We don't talk about methylation in that regard, but it's extremely important because when we looked at the recent pandemic, right? And when people started talking about vaccine injury, which was real for some people, regardless of what side you're on. One of the issues that happened when they received the jab was it decreased their methylation potential. So when that happened, their body had a set number of methyl groups that were available because we're supposed to get our DMG and our TMG from food, plants, vegetables. That doesn't really happen anymore because of our poisonous food that we eat. So when people got this vaccine or this new virus introduced, your body took methyl groups that were already inside of you and went and tried to silence that. In order to do that, they may have had to pull methyl groups off of silenced viruses and bacteria. So what did we see during COVID? We saw a rise in Epstein-Barr, in active Lyme cases. We saw HIV again. We saw sexually transmitted diseases that people were like, how did I get this? We saw chlamydia pop back up. We saw strep explode. So think about it. If your body doesn't have enough, it cannot support overcoming a bacteria or a virus because everything is just a biochemical pathway in your body. Your body doesn't fight against you. So we very much have a kill mentality in our group of integrative and complementary care, holistic health. We go for the kill all the time. My point to teaching this Bloodwork course is go for the fill. If you fill deficiencies and the body can, it will. If the body can, it will. But if the body can't, it won't. It doesn't matter how many antibiotics you throw at it, how many homeopathics you throw out. If you are deficient in iron and you're a poor methylator, you cannot. And that's the easiest way that I can explain it. When it's not asthma, can you also see the person who has ADD, ADHD issues due to possibly? Absolutely. I mean, any child that doesn't feel good or is deficient, how can you focus? Can you guys focus when you have a headache? Can you focus when you're low energy? Let's take new moms with a new baby. If we would run a CBC with differential on them about 3 weeks postpartum and see where their blood levels are plus thyroid, you could make a world of difference in those mamas and offset postpartum depression because most of it is related to low D, low iron, and low thyroid. And that's going to create a neurotransmitter issue. Brain hormones, serotonin and dopamine, are hormones. We have to stop segregating the body. And here's my big thing for tonight. Your immune system, your hormones, and your neurotransmitters are one system. One, not three. It's kind of like the Godhead. If you're Christian, it's Father, Son, Holy Spirit. We don't just take one and pluck them out and be like, see you, Jesus. That's not what we do. So we can't do that to the body. So when we're talking about hormones, immune system, and neurotransmitters, it's one system. There's only 4 pathways of communication for the immune system. Paracrine, cell to cell. Autocrine, the cell talks to itself. Endocrine, the cell talks to the hormone system. And neurocrine, the cell talks to the neurotransmitters. All immune communication. You get an infection, the fire signals start to chime. The cell talks to another cell. The cell talks to itself. The cell talks to your hormones. The cell talks to your brain. That is why your expression of dis-ease, whether it's neurodegenerative, it's hormonal, that is an expression of dis-ease. It's metabolic issue. Metabolic issue is an immune issue. Cancer is a metabolic issue. It's not an immune issue. It's a metabolic issue because it involves your hormones. And I'll tell you, you cannot fix anybody with cancer if you don't balance their hormones, balance their neurotransmitters, and balance their immune system. It's impossible. And we've had such a tunnel view on the body for so long that if we would just start bringing it all in and say, okay, somebody has low red blood cell count, and we're going to go under this, white blood cell count. We're going to learn about that infection potential, but they're not sick, but they have massive hormone imbalance. It is because of whatever infection this is. It's not because their estrogen's low. It's because their metabolic function is low, because their immune system can't communicate paracrine, autocrine, neurocrine, endocrine. So little sidebar there. All right, to the white blood cell count. So white blood cell count, as you can see, my numbers are super low. Anything below 5 for me is a chronic infection. Anything above 8 is acute. Now you're going to go into the practitioner's office, right? Or your doctor's office, or maybe you yourself are a practitioner, and you have somebody that keeps coming back. They keep coming back. They're not getting better. They're still sick, and their white blood cell count is at 10. They have an infection. We just have to find it. Or they may be coming back, and their white blood cell count's at 3.5. They have something that's been there a long time. It's just been missed. So how do we start to gather the information? Where is it? What do I do? So I always look at the differentials, because these guys, these differentials are going to show you what the body is shooting at. Now, I didn't touch on platelets, so I'm just going to pause real quick. I mean, I think it's all general knowledge that if your platelets are too high and your blood is clotting, that you're at risk of clots. And if it's too low, then we have an issue with bleeding. And I just want to touch on these, okay? Number 1, CircuCor. You can write that down because it's not here, but when you get this, you can fill in all your notes. CircuCor is an incredible supplement for vascular integrity, but for endothelial repair. We're going to be using CircuCor not only for immune system functionality, but for gut healing, because nitric oxide is the magic component to getting that last result of pulling the tight junctions together, because that's endothelial tissue. Okay, and CircuCor has an incredible panel that has L-arginine and hawthorn, and it also has a patented trademark grapeseed called Activin, which is the most highly studied nutrient for integrity of endothelial tissue, including vascularity. So CircuCor here. Now, if you're not familiar with systemic enzyme therapy, and I'm just going to make the assumption we're all at the same place and we're just going to talk about everything. Systemic enzyme therapy is extremely valuable when we're working with platelets, especially when they're too high and we're risking clotting. And we saw that. And why does clotting happen? Well, when the vascular integrity, the tight junctions of the vascular system start to stretch from damage from a poor diet, or maybe you have a toxicity in your body, or you have high inflammation from, a medication, whatever that inflammatory instigator is, the junctions start to pull apart, whether it's in the vascular system, the digestive, or the blood-brain barrier. And so when that happens, your body tries to repair it. And so it needs the ability to pull those back together. And one of the things that it needs is L-arginine, and that you'll find in CircuCor. When those tight junctions pull back together, then the body can release a nice little gas called nitric oxide, which keeps the blood nice and thin and viscous. Now, nitric oxide, again, CircuCor is one of the supplements that will help with the production of that. So if you utilize CircuCor along with Natachem Plus, which is a systemic enzyme, and systemic enzymes taken on an empty stomach will eat foreign material in the body or things that are not supposed to be there. I use systemic enzymes for earaches in our house, ankle sprains. If something is an encapsulated bunch of proteins together, I'll use Natachem, but you have to use enough of it. And I think people got scared of enzymes, like they're not in our body, and they worry about burning a hole in their stomach. That's not true. Natachem Plus you can take in really high doses on an empty stomach and let it work systemically. Because if it's in your blood, What you have to remember is the immune system goes everywhere, it touches everything, and it doesn't have a fence. So if you have leaky gut, you have leaky brain, you have leaky vessels, you have leaky renal pathway. That's why when you see people that are post-COVID or that have had the jab, they have wonky renal numbers, low GFR, they have immune system numbers all over the place. They're low in iron. Like all of these things are compounding. Their hormones are all over the place. They have neurological issues, mental issues, anxiety, depression. It's all the immune system. Their immune system's challenged. Their methylation's in the pot, and they probably don't have enough. So if we remove the kill and we go with, instead of pathological associated molecular response, think damaged associated molecular response. The body's still stimulating the immune system to do something, but the immune system doesn't know what to do because there's no pathogen. Think of it that way. Go with fill rather than kill. So SPMs are also incredible. These are specialized pro-resolving mediators, and they just modulate the inflammation. Think about calming the immune system and calming the central nervous system. Those are real key in chronic infections and disease, okay? Or omegas. Now, I know they're not sexy anymore, guys, but honestly, every single cell in your body has a lipid bilayer around it. You need fat. And trust me, your clients and patients are not eating enough good quality fat. And most of them grew up on, I can't believe it's not butter. So we have a lot of work to do. All right, let's get back to white blood cell count and differentials. So the neutrophils, these guys are going to tell you about bacteria. Now, what kind of bacteria? Well, I don't know, but it gives us a good clue. So anything above 60, you're looking for some sort of bacteria. Now, do you treat the test? No, you talk to the patient. You're going to talk about their gut health. Have they ever been exposed to Lyme? Did they ever have strep? What kind of bacteria could it possibly be? Most of the time, it is some sort of gut issue. Could be SIBO, could be H. pylori, could be parasites, candida. I'm going to show you how to see that. But most of the time it's fungal, bacterial, or parasitic. Now, if you don't know, hit all three. And there's formulations such as Candy Kill that is a great immune formula, by the way. It has, oregano and thyme and all the things. And sometimes if I don't have Immune Boost or I don't have Immunimax on hand, which is really like never, but if I don't, I'll take Candy Kill if I feel like I'm getting sick because there's a lot of immune stuff in there. A good probiotic can go a long way. IgG, this is what I call the sponge of the digestive system. It's going to go in there and sop up bacteria, immunoglobulin. This is actually a peptide. Your GI Complete, such a great formula because it's comprehensive and it tastes good. And what I love for gut stuff is powders. Okay, so you might be thinking, what if neutrophils are indicating it's a bacterial infection, but they have no gut issues? Great. I would go back up here and I would look, is it chronic or is it acute? If it's acute with high neutrophils, you got a bacterial infection somewhere. You just have to figure out where it is. You might have to run more tests. You might want to look at urinary tract. You might want to ask them if they have Lyme, like all those kinds of things. You might want to just check symptoms. Are they stuffy? Are they sneezing? Do they complain about an earache? What's going on with your client? If it's low, this is, I wouldn't say a dangerous place, but when your neutrophils are trending down, your immune system's not battling anymore. So we don't want an immune system that's sleeping. Again, you can use things in place of a healthier immune system to bring up the potential to get in there and fight a bacteria. But remember, we also want the potential to overcome. So that's where that fill and maybe kill mentality can come in secondary. If this person's been fighting this chronic issue for a long time, there's a good chance you're dealing with damaged cells that are sick. Remember, healthy cell, dead cell. They're the only kind of cells we want. So if you have a damaged cell, they're going to be releasing a lot of signals that they need help. And so we need to fill that person. So I usually go with a fill mentality with a chronic infection first, and then I go after the underlying whatever it is that I discover. And then for the acute infection, if I see this white blood cell count being higher than 8, and I know the neutrophils are like 67, 68, and they're having all kinds of digestive problems, I'm probably going to put in a good digestive protocol here so that we go after the fungus, the bacteria, whatever that looks like. Okay, pause. Go for the I'll come back to.
Someone was curious about glycocalyx when we were talking about, I think, the endothelial tissue.
So it's a little, I mean, you can't really, it's not apples to apples, but you can, okay, how can I answer this? It's not apples to apples, right? So what we're looking at is more of what potentially is this person dealing with. So when we're looking at glycocalyx, the meshwork, right, within the digestive system, that can include a lot of things like bacteria, epithelial cells, endothelial cells. So it's really a compilation of all those things. So that's more of a polysaccharide issue. And so I really wouldn't know if it's that issue from looking at a CBC, but I would know there's a gut issue. Now from this, you could run your gut tests. You could run your GI maps, you could run your food sensitivity tests, you could run those tests to discover a little bit more about this patient, but this is just a high level look. What I will say is when I utilize this test and I use things because I can figure out what those things are down here, I get good results. If I'm not getting the person where I want them to be, then I'm going to move them to a different test. But normally I can get 80%, 85% with a simple CBC with differential. Okay. So lymphocytes, wait, let me make sure there's nothing else. Okay. So lymphocytes, these are viruses. Anything above 30 is some sort of underlying virus. What is it? I don't know, but it could be herpes virus, HPV, cyclomegalovírus. It can be any type of viruses. Now, as with all product companies, right, they have almost everything, but sometimes I do use homeopathy here. Sometimes I use some peptide formulas, but the IgG I always love for gut. So lymphocytes, when we're looking at that, anything above 30 is going to be an issue with an underlying viral instigator. I can't really say these are infections. They're just instigators. They're just things that are in there that might flare. We see that with Epstein-Barr. It flares. Depending on stress, depending on deficiency. So when I see this, anything above 30, I'm going to put in an antiviral protocol. Sometimes you have all of them. Sometimes you have high neutrophils, you have lymphocytes that are a little bit elevated. And so at that point, I'm going to just figure out in phases what that client can do, what they will do, and what they can afford to do. We're going to go after the bacteria. We're going to go after the virus. And so I do love, you know, the Immunomax, the Super Zinc, the vitamin D, the IgG. That's kind of a favorite of mine all the way around. And I'm not afraid to dose the IgG higher. The 1 scoop is on the label. I like maybe 3. And I know that can be expensive for clients, but most of the therapeutic studies are 5 grams. That would be 5 scoops. So we can't always do that affordability wise. That's why you have those conversations. Now, monocytes are exactly what you would think. It's mono, right? Underlying Epstein-Barr virus. Anything above 7 for me, and even 7 or above is enough. Now, if your person is at 6 and they are expressing what you would consider mono-like symptoms, then you're not going to be like, well, you don't have it. You know, they might be just super sensitive to it. So above 7, I said before it's an underlying virus, but I think I'm just going to scratch that out. And anything above 7, I would look at Epstein-Barr. Now, there are tests that you can test for Epstein-Barr titers. And in the course, I teach all about Epstein-Barr, not the one for NF, but when you get there in October, I will teach you the 4 titer tests that I do and how to look at them and why one is more important when there's an initial infection, why one is more important 6 months out, which is going to be that flaring point and what you have to look at for titer tests. They don't always run the right tests, so you have to do it. Again, your protocols for this type of virus, and I do give you this protocol, L-lysine. We know the benefits of L-lysine with all viruses. Yes, it can drive down L-arginine, but if we're going with the fill versus kill mentality, you're not going to be using this forever. You're going to be using it strategically and therapeutically. And acetylcysteine, this is an acetylator. So if we look at how the body works in the immunology, methylation, acetylation, phosphorylation, that's why NAC worked for viruses, because it put an acetyl group on the virus and it silenced it. Zinc, I do love Live Clear, vitamin C. And I love Live Clear for all the things in this panel that are antiviral. If you pull up your bottle of Live Clear, you're going to be shocked at that panel because you probably really never looked at it and you're probably like, It also helps with methylation and so many other things. Melatonin is a great anti-inflammatory and can really calm the central nervous system. I know that we like to use it in these little tiny doses and 3 milligrams. Now, a lot of studies that are done with melatonin are up to 180 milligrams a day. I'm not recommending that here, but if you look up the studies on melatonin and chronic disease, I think you'll be surprised at how the RDA, the really dumb amounts, may not be doing it justice. I know that Dr. Bob Rakowski doses melatonin every hour for his patients during waking hours to reset their central nervous system that has been so exhausted from fighting a chronic disease. So really important that we're not afraid to give people what they need and fill the gaps, okay? Eosinophils, this is your indicator of parasite. Eosinophils are in the digestive system, they're immune cells. And so when they get angry, we have a dysbiosis or a parasitic. Now, sometimes you'll do all the parasite cleanses in the world and you'll get this number down to a certain point, maybe 4. I've seen eosinophilia at 40 with people that were on certain chemotherapies that just create high eosinophilia. And I have put them on Parakill and Microgon, but got them to a certain point and they kind of got stuck. And at that point, I'm going to fill. So at that point, I'm doing an entire probiotic repopulation. I'm doing GI Complete. I'm doing the IgG. I'm just filling and nourishing that pathway, and you'll drive those down. So remember, parasites, yeah, we want to go in and kill them, but then we also have to send in the troops. We have to send in the backup so that those parasites don't overrun the place again, just like Candida. Candida's a good guy. He's a blood protector. He tries to eat things that shouldn't be getting into our blood. The problem is that our junctions are loose, we have high inflammation, and we eat a bunch of bad food, not us, but our clients. And so we don't always have the best gut health. And so Candida has a very opportunistic, bacteria is opportunistic, all bacteria. That's why you see high levels of akkermansia in Parkinson's patients. Akkermansia is a GLP-1 agonist, and people are using it for weight loss, which is great in balance. But when you look at a Parkinson's patient, their gut microbiome has high akkermansia. So any bacteria opportunistically out of balance is bad. I don't care if it's a probiotic or not. So just keep in mind that you need to switch your probiotics from Frontier to Super and sometimes SBC. Sometimes you're repopulating, sometimes they don't need it. They can take over with food. Sometimes you need GI Complete. Don't get stuck in a rut of this is how I do it. Work with your clients, okay? All right, so just a few notes too. Basophils, we want those less than 1. So if the combination here is like 2 and this is 1, I would say parasites. If this is 3 or above, I would say parasites. And all parasites and food sensitivities live together. They love to hang out together. It's because parasites are going to create, as Dr. Bob Rakowski says, everything on this earth that's alive eats, sleeps, and poops. And sometimes it's inside your body. So we want to make sure that the parasites, we kill them, and then we clean up the gut and we reestablish the population. But if you have parasitic invasion and it's eating and sleeping and pooping and it's taking your nutrients and creating waste, you're going to get food sensitivities because you're already highly inflamed and you're probably sensitive to everything now. So remember, if someone has food sensitivities, don't put them right in food prison, right? Write them a script for a CBC with differential and see if it's a parasitic issue or an overgrowth of fungus, Candida, or H. pylori, or SIBO. And you can find out a lot more doing better things for them here without taking all their fun food away all the time, okay? So some patterns that I look for are neutrophils to lymphocytes. So that was bacteria to viral immune potential. You want that to be 2 to 1. So if this is 60, right, it should be 2 to 1. This should be 30. If it's 40, this should be around 20, 25, something like that. Now, it's not always exact, but close. When you start to broaden that gap and you're looking for things that are like 1 to 1, 3-to-1, 5-to-1, you are starting to see the onset of autoimmune. What autoimmune? I don't know, but I usually see it with people that have Hashimoto's, RA. I also see high monocytes with people that have Hashimoto's. Why? Because Epstein-Barr virus has the same epitope patterns as your thyroid cells. And so epitope patterns are what your antibodies attack. And so they can't differentiate. When a Epstein-Barr viral infection is attached to a thyroid cell, it will just kill them both. Remember, paracrine, cell to cell, autocrine, talking to yourself. All right. Your differential total should equal 100. So when you add these numbers up, it should equal 100. It's just a little scale to make sure that everything's up and up. And I think that I was one more thing I wanted to say, and now I can't remember what that was. Absolutes, you might get those on a blood test. You can convert those. This is a real simple equation. You just take your absolute value, divide it by your white blood cell count, and multiply by 100, and that will give you your percentage. So in case you get any type of differences there. All right, I'm gonna look at the chat and see what's going on.
Yeah,
100% is just a gauge of the differentials, and I said that right here. Differentials equal to 100. So remember, your differentials are the difference, just what your immune system is firing at, right? So that's neutrophils, lymphocytes, monocytes, eosinophils, and basophils. That should equal 100. If they don't, then we got an issue. Oh, whoops, I was reading a question and somebody chatted something. Any probiotic can be bad because they're opportunistic. How can we create a balance to prevent that? It's a really good idea. Well, eat a wide variety of food, and the best probiotic is the one that your body can create, right? If you need a gap filler for a period of time, you use it for a period of time. If somebody's not holding their repopulation, it's either a prebiotic issue or a postbiotic issue. Now, postbiotics aren't talked about a lot, but I talk about them a lot. That's a butyrate issue. And postbiotics are really your short chain fatty acids, really important in gut health. So if you're not holding your probiotics, I would looking at prebiotics, feeding the colon, vegetables, fiber, fruits, things like that, or a postbiotic like butyrate that you would take at the end of a meal. But beyond 3 milligrams, melatonin makes sleep for 20 hours. What? I don't know. Then you don't take that, Bernadette, so that's okay. You can take Calm Day. We don't want you sleeping all day, Bernadette. You got stuff to do. So, oh, you're welcome, Vivian. Was that it? Did I miss anything?
No,
Can
I think
we
you
do
got
the
all the
advanced
questions.
course virtual? Can't they? Are you
Yes,
doing?
they can. I already answered that. It's in the chat. They can sign up using the same link. We are live streaming the event. Although I
Any
would miss a
questions?
chance to see Dr. Tracey live. Way fun.
So exciting.
Pretty fun.
I'm kind of entertaining. No, I'm just kidding. Well, guys, I appreciate your time tonight. I know you have everything else you should be doing except this, right? So I know that the course is available through NF. If you want to come back, you want to take it again, you can listen to this recording again. You know, most people have to listen to it 2 or 3 times, and then you find your own niche with your blood work. It's not always exactly how I say. You might notice different patterns that you want to share. And I love when people do that. You know, they come and they'll say, hey, Tracey, I looked at this on the blood work and I noticed this pattern. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's really cool. I never noticed that. So always learning, always a forever student. And I really appreciate you doing this, Christine, and taking your time tonight. So thank you very much.
Well, Dr. Tracey, we can't thank you enough. I have seen your course multiple times, and I take notes every single time and go, oh, that's right. So I would highly recommend everybody take the course. It is available to you at any time, all the materials that you need. I've placed the link in the chat for the course, the Beyond the Bloodwork course. If you're interested in coming to the professional training event and taking the advanced course, I highly recommend you take this course first so that you're prepared for what she's going to share. If anybody has any additional questions, you can always reach me at Nutritional Frontiers. It's just my first name, Christine, at nutritionalfrontiers.com. Again, we want to thank Dr. Tracey for her generosity, her knowledge, and obviously her passion for making the world healthy. So thanks, everybody. I hope you have a great night.